Here's my exact plan to take my client's show rate from 40% to 78% in the next 7 days and double his revenue from 53K a month to 106K a month. If you're new to the channel, welcome in. I'm Ethan Lim and I help online coaches hit 100K plus months. And in this video, I'm going to break down the exact backend selling system for you right now, step by step, so that you can copy it. And we're covering 4 systems in order of priority. System number 1 is the modern confirmation page. System number 2 is the setters human touch. System number 3, and that's one of my favorite marketing strategies of all time, is the email Blitzkrieg. And system number 4 is the content saturation system, which compresses basically months of organic trust building into 48 to 72 hours. Now, when most coaches get a shitty show rate, they blame one of 2 things. Either my leads are too fucking cold and unqualified, or my sales team is ass, right? But the reality is that show rate is more often than not an infrastructure problem rather than a people problem. So for example, my current client is taking about 20 calls a week with a 40% show rate, which equates to 8 people showing up. Now, with a 5K offer and a 33% close rate, this means he's pulling about K a week, right? Which is 53K a month. Now, the moment we double his show rate, everything else would double as well, which means he will start making about 26K a week and 103K a month with the same offer, same leads, and same close rate. Now, that also means that he's setting about 10K a month on fire, right? On leads who booked and ghosted. Only because you're not giving your leads enough reason to prioritize your call over everything else in their life. But just think about it. And if you want to calculate how much you're losing, you can do so with these 4 steps I outlined over here. And the entire goal of the backend system I'm about to show you is to move leads as high as possible on this thing called the interest spectrum before the call happens. So that by the time your closer gets on the call, they're basically cashiers and they're just taking orders. So leads generally sit on a spectrum, from curious, generally interested, highly interested, to convicted. And whenever they take a key action, like clicking your ad, filling out the application, or consuming content from you, their interest levels spike. And the moment someone books a call is when they have peak levels of motivation, or when they're at their peak emotional state. And from that exact second onwards, their interest decays on an exponential graph, as represented by this red line over here. So by the first 24 hours, a huge chunk of their initial motivation is gone. And by 48 to 72 hours, they've completely reset to default. You can think of it like a warm bath, right? And every key action over here, where a lead engages with you, adds hot water to the bath. But over time, the water in the bath obviously loses heat to its surroundings. And where they land on that spectrum determines the sales conversation. So highly interested to convicted leads, it's so fucking easy to close them. You can close them while closing your eyes, really. And that's for convicted leads. Highly interested leads are more of those, warm leads that are easily closable with a competent sales rep. These are typically organic leads, right, that most coaches don't struggle with. Now, curious to generally interested leads are your paid traffic leads without the backend selling system. And it's those, cold and frustrating education calls that your closers freaking hate. And the backend system's only job is making sure that your leads show up at minimum highly interested, right? Most coaches get this so wrong, so listen up, right? Booking a call only means that your prospects are sold on the call itself, which means that right now you have to sell them on showing up. At this point, they're just, curious or genuinely interested at this point, especially at, high levels of market sophistication, where your prospects have been probably fucked before and are inherently skeptical of anyone trying to get them on a call, basically. So even when the call is still free, the prospect is still paying in 3 different currencies: time, energy, and exposure. So what you have to do is continuously prove that the call is worth paying that price. And this means every touch point must increase the perceived value of showing up to the call. And this leads us to system number 1, the confirmation page. Your confirmation page appears at peak motivation and interest levels of the prospect. So the prospect just booked over here, and most coaches just show them, you're booked, check your email for more details. And that's literally the most valuable real estate you have in your entire funnel when you're wasting it. There are 5 things that you have to implement on your confirmation page. Firstly, you want to acknowledge the action, which you're likely already doing. Second, you want to prompt them to press on the I know the sender on the calendar invite button, right? Include a visual instruction, something like that. So I took this from Charlie Morgan. And it's best if you add some, urgency language to this, right? Otherwise, you'll miss the call. The event you just scheduled with us will not show up in your calendar and you'll likely miss the call, something like that. And this is because modern calendar software does not auto-add events from unknown senders. This means that if they don't click this button over here, which will show up in their Gmail, right, the event never hits their calendars, which obviously decreases show rate. And now the third thing is your confirmation video. But it's not the typical, thank you so much, please remember to show up for your call, type of video. It's a due diligence video. And what we're trying to do here is we want to reframe the relationship between us and the prospect from, I'm trying to sell you to I'm trying to help you as quickly as possible. And one great way to do that is, while increasing interest levels, is by reframing yourself as a partner, helping them do their due diligence. And so the prospect should leave this page feeling like, you're on their side, helping them research, evaluate, and make a confident decision. And so I've laid out a basic skeleton of what the script will look like, but an example of the script could be something like, hey, congratulations, you just booked your call. Let me be clear about my responsibility between now and the call. My job from this point forward is to help you do your due diligence. I am here right now, from this point onward, to give you as much information as you need to make a confident decision by the time we talk. So some of what I'm going to show on this page will help you research us, me, and this entire organization. And what we're going to do is literally go onto Google, Reddit, search our company name, search my name, and look at reviews together. And obviously, we're not just going to show you a bunch of really positive testimonials and reviews. We're also going to talk about worst case scenarios. We're going to talk about, what happens if you, for some godforsaken reason, get fucked by us, and how we're going to keep you safe. We're also going to demonstrate to you the process of getting the result. What we need you to do and what you can expect from us once you've officially purchased from us. In addition to that, we answer a lot of the common questions, the real questions that people have at this stage of the process prior to the call. Again, that's my job from this point forward. Outside from the videos you're going to find below on this page, we have some people reaching out to you. And what we'll do is tailor specific information to what your questions and your needs are based on what you've provided to us to this point. And this is where you use statistics from their lead forms, application data, whatsoever. You're also going to get a handful of emails from us every single day. We don't just send you one email, we typically send you a handful per day. And again, they're all intended to put you in a position where you can make a well-informed decision come time the choice officially presents itself to purchase or not. And I explain this more in the email Blitzkrieg section later, but basically we want you to be confident either way. Whether you're in or out, we're here at this point forward, starting literally right now when you scroll down this page to get you all the information you need to make a confident purchase, or just walk away, assuming it's not for you. So go ahead and scroll down. I look forward to helping you out. And of course, if you have any questions, respond to the emails or people reaching out to you. I look forward so much to helping you. Talk soon. So that's basically the basic skeleton for this. And you can literally transcribe what I just said and edit it to fit your process. And so Jeremy Haynes does this a lot. In fact, this entire process right here was inspired by Jeremy Haynes and a couple other people put together, Charlie Morgan, all these different people that I learned from and put together just for you. And we've implemented this for our clients and we've gotten amazing results. And the reason why we want to have this is because people are going to do their due diligence whether you guide it or not, right? If you don't frame their research, they'll do it themselves, bro. They'll Google you, you'll find random Reddit threads, and you'll form unguided conclusions. Now, if you do guide it though, if you show them your reviews, you walk through the worst case scenarios, you walk through the worst reviews, you demonstrate, your Stripe dispute rate, that's a really good one. And you proactively address every scam search result that you find online, you're going to control the narrative. And whoever controls the frame controls the outcome. And the fourth thing are the breakout videos. The goal here is to answer every question or expectation or objection that prospects have prior to the call. And you want to continuously update these, obviously, based on feedback from your sales team. So they're not long, they're about 1 to 4 minutes each. And you start by asking your sales team these questions, right? What questions do prospects ask the most often? What holds people back from buying? What makes people buy faster? What makes someone says I'm in? Versus, what objections are you just tired of repeatedly answering? What questions come out about the price, right? There's so many different questions that you can ask your sales team in order to really understand what are common questions, expectations, and objections that typically come up on the call itself. Now, every prospect have questions that generally fall into 6 categories. Legitimacy and credibility. Are these people even real? Have they scammed anyone before? Who else has trusted them? Price and cost. Why is this so expensive? Can I get this cheaper somewhere else? Is it worth the money? Risk and worst case scenarios. What if this fails? Do they offer a refund or guarantee? Is this real? Or is it just, scammy marketing fluff? Timeline and logistics. How long does it take for me to see results? What's required of me? Success and expectations. Are these testimonials cherry-picked? What's the average or realistic outcome? Social proof and outside perspectives. What do Reddit users say about them? This is a huge one that we'll go into later. Are their Trustpilot reviews genuine? And so what you want to do is aim for about 15 to 20 breakout videos. That's technically what we do for most of our clients. And for each breakout video, you want to tweet clearly with the question that it answers. So this is an example over here. What you can do is actually move this question over here right below the play button. And that basically makes it look nicer as well. And normally we do 2 to 3 videos per row. 2 videos is best because it makes it the most digestible and gives you that, effect to it. So again, title it clearly with the question it answers and then open immediately with that question. So if the question here is, what if I don't have enough money to start reselling? Just open it straight away and say, one of the most common questions people ask me is, what if I don't have enough money to start reselling? Then what you want to do is answer with evidence in about like 1 or 3 minutes, really depends, and then invite further review, right? Tell them how they can do their own research. And remember that right here, you're simply feeding them as much critical information as possible, right? You want to ensure that the interest does not decay, which ultimately leads to very happy closers and more revenue for your business. And some great, amazing breakout videos are, what is my success rate? And right here, if you have a very low strike dispute and refund rate, you can show it, right? If it's under 1%, go ahead and show it and explain to your viewers what that means. Then you can go on Google and search your name scam, or your name plus Reddit, or your company plus complaints, and frame what comes up. Again, right? Frame what comes up. And remember to search like YouTube videos as well for videos on like rants on your company or complaints or reviews about your company as well. You want to show the prospect that you're aware and you're not avoiding any of the conversation. For instance, if you type it right here, TGR trade scam, you see that immediately the first thing that people see is this, right? TGR fake. I've been learning from TGR and blah and blank blank blank, he's a fraud. Exposing the biggest fake guru in trading. People are not going to buy, right? As simple as that. Even AI, Gemini is shitting on him, bro. If you have bad reviews on Reddit, what you can do is get your current customers to reply and share their experience. And you can even start about 3 to 4 Reddit threads every quarter to start ranking on Google. What you can also do is incentivize customers to post their entire journey on YouTube to get a discount on your offer. So just a script that you guys can use. Like, can you guys share some feedback on this Reddit thread? So just a script that you can use. Can you guys share some feedback on this Reddit thread? We're using this as our review platform. And if you don't mind, just give us some thoughts on what you've experienced. Obviously, be transparent. We don't want to influence it one way or another. And for SEO nerds here, you can use like backlinks to push positive reviews even higher in search results. And you can use tools like, Answer the Public or SpyFu. SEMrush also works, right? To find what people are actually searching. Or you can just hire a Filipino kid for like $100 to get this done for you on Fiverr, right? That also works as well. But you do not want to lie. You do not want to lie. So for example, if you search BRES scam, and if you don't know who BRES is, basically he's like a millionaire teaching freelance brand scaling. It's kind of like, it's like most opportunities, but they just, spin it with a unique mechanism. And you can see like there's a thread over here and people seems to be backing him up. Like if you read this right here, ERT for months now and it's well worth it, okay? So this it does give a good review, right? When you come into the page and you look at it, it gives a good impression. But when you click into it, you notice that, it's actually an automated reply. And that instantly doubles down on the distrust. So you have to make sure that you monitor this very, very closely. So another great breakout video is what's the worst case scenario and what happens after that. This is way more effective than testimonials because market sophistication is very high right now and just pure testimonials doesn't work. And with AI getting even more advanced, people literally have prospects on calls telling me that my testimonials were fake before and were AI generated, right? So AI is very powerful right now, so you want to take note of that as well. And this builds massive trust because it demonstrates that you have nothing to hide. Another great thing that you can cover is what is your true average result. So cover best results, worst results, including failures and people that you're fired, right? And then the average result itself. So this 3-tier breakdown of best, worst, average is much more believable than just showing huge wins itself. If you have a 10% fail rate, then just be transparent. We see about 9 out of 10 people thrive, but 1 out of 10 do not. And they fail quite drastically actually, due to all the reasons. And here's what we do in those cases. Then you explain what you do with those people. Another question is, what do I need to do to be successful? This sets the expectations and just filters out people who are not willing to do the work, right? Those people would have no showed anyway or refunded after buying. And then what's the investment? This is especially important if you're targeting a richer demographic. Rich means like more than 150K per year in annual income. Rich people, they value directness a lot. Directness and transparency. If someone's already doing 150K a year in revenue, they'd rather just know the number up front than have to sit through like an hour of build-up. Rich people hate having their time wasted. Now the point of all of this is that they're going to consume all this information anyways. So why not position yourself as a partner in their research and frame how this information is perceived? Now the last thing on this page itself should be testimonials, but not the way most people do it. So like I mentioned just now, there are 3 tiers of results that you can show them, right? And we can break them down into low impact to high impact. Low impact are the pretty standard ones that most people use right now and they think are really impressive. Trustpilot badges and Google review scores. No one trusts this anymore. Medium impact are your average success stories and your best success stories. It doesn't differentiate you. And the high impact testimonials composed of 4 different testimonial types. Dude, just imagine like you creating a section called "Here's How Bad It Could Be if you worked with us. And then you feature worst case stories, right? Something like what Travis is doing over here. Like people who barely broke even, or people that didn't see crazy results. This just builds massive trust because it looks nothing like, what every other coach is doing, which is just cherry picking the best screenshots, the best testimonials, and then putting it on a page. You can even create like a breakout video as well, or a resource document in the first email that links to Trustpilot and also includes a video of you walking through your worst reviews on camera and addressing them head on. And a huge tip that I have for you is also to show what I call prospect mirror testimonials, which are testimonials from clients who are closer to the prospect than to you, right? Because the gap between you right now and the prospect typically is really, really far. And you want to show them that it's possible to get to, your level or perhaps even surpass your level. But in order to do that, you need to create a bridge for them. The viewer needs to see someone who was exactly where they are. And lastly, you want to show testimonials where clients talk about overcoming the most common reasons that hold people back from buying. If your biggest objection is, I've been burned before, then you need a testimonial from someone who's been burned before. And that person could say like, I've been burned 4 times before this and I was terrified, and here's what happened. So most markets right now are in late stage 3 of market sophistication. So let me zoom into this cartoon over here. I think it's really nice. It's by Copy Hour. So shout out to them. And the outdated, your appointment is confirmed messages. They read like spam. No one cares about that anymore. So you need to differentiate yourself and make the lead prioritize the call above anything else. And I have some action sets for you here. So I'm not going to read this out. Just pause the video and screenshot it if you want. And a pro tip too, which is if you don't see a lift after implementing the confirmation pages and the remaining 3 systems that I talk about later in the video, you want to try to add more urgency to the due diligence video, because sometimes your offer is just not urgent by nature. So if you need, more opt-ins, because sometimes your offer is just not urgent by nature, and you need the right information and highly believable reasons to form priority, which then lead to action. Now, other than the confirmation page, we also want what I call the setter's human touch, which is one-on-one communication that moves each individual lead up the interest spectrum that's based on their specific situation, questions, and hesitations. So you can look at this diagram that I created over here. Manual outreach has basically the highest visibility and consumption of any backend channel itself. So all of our confirmation pages, email Blitzkrieg, content saturation, they go broad, right? And they compensate with volume, which means that what our setters need to do is go narrow here and compensate with specificity to catch any remaining uncaptured lead. And so the moment a lead actually engages with a setter, show rates increase by approximately 30%, which is a huge increase. And there are a couple of rules, non-negotiable rules for setters over here. Rule 1 is value only. The only intention of a setter or you contacting them is to get them to consume information and respond to communication. Of course, there's things like qualifying, leads over here, but you can do that subtly through this process itself. Rule number 2 is specificity. The setter, whether it is human or AI, should be actively analyzing application answers against all of the available resources that you have, and then tailoring consumption to the prospect based on their specific needs and concerns. Setters are knowledge assemblers, in a sense, right? They know every resource available, every breakout video, every case study, every trust asset, and they match the right ones to the right person. And the third rule is speed. Contact every lead even if you think they're unqualified. So Alex Hormozi says that you do so within 60 seconds, when Papa Hormozi says something, you better listen. So prospects contacted within 5 minutes are 21 times more likely to qualify and 100 times more likely to convert than those contacted after 30 minutes. And that's from a Harvard Business Study review and MIT study of 1.25 million leads. And responding within 1 minute, and this is some stats I got online, apparently gives you a 391% increase in conversion, where responding in under 5 minutes gives you a 32% close rate versus a 12% for leads contacted after 24 hours. Again, this is all from Harvard or MIT, some stats I got while researching for the video. And yet the average B2B response time apparently is 42 to 47 hours, which is really horrendous. Research also shows that 78% of your customers buy from vendors who respond first. And apparently 52% of leads arrive outside of business hours. So having that 24/7 capability if possible, or having an AI setter in fact, gives you that 2.5x conversion rate over businesses that only respond during working hours. And like I mentioned, the first touch point should fire within 60 seconds. And I want you to apply the U test to every single outreach message that you send from today onwards. Would you respond if someone sent you this shit? If no, go ahead and rewrite it. You want to start by sending them personalized selfie videos on WhatsApp that's like 20-30 seconds. So something like, hey Ethan, I just saw that you booked in with us. I have 2 things I can send to you that I think will help you a lot. I got X resource and I got Y video. Which of these would you prefer I send to you? And would you rather me send them here via text or email? Let me know. By the way, I'm the person that you're talking to at 3 p.m. tomorrow. I'm so excited to connect and let's talk soon. And what you can do is just, use an iPhone and then do something like that, record yourself in your chair or, walk around doing that. You want to make it seem authentic. And make it seem like I'm connecting directly to the person, just like how I'm speaking to you right now. The second a lead bites and starts communicating, chances of them showing up jumps by 30%. And now with AI tools like, Loom, especially, the script, you can literally create one personalized video, and I'll literally walk you through like how to do this over here, and edit the name to match each new lead's name. So for instance, you can record a video. So I recorded a random Loom for this video. You go to videos and audio, click audio variable, and then you can replace it over here. Now this would require the business plus AI subscription, which I think is $20 a month, $24 a month USD, if I'm not wrong. But you can go ahead and check that out. And then you want to follow up with this. Is there any specific questions that need to be answered prior to our call tomorrow to make sure that you show up? Because typically there's just one big thing. In terms of confirmations, you want to call twice a day at separate times the demographic is likely to answer. And you want to double down on the initial speed to lead contact only, not on subsequent follow-ups, so that they'll pick up. And intentionally vary the timing across days so you catch them when they're actually available. And once they pick up, if you're wondering what to say, you can say something like, "Hey, what's going on, Ethan? Great to talk to you. I know we got our call tomorrow at 3 p.m. and I figured that I'll reach out." Most people have a very specific question that if left unanswered will hold them back from showing up to our call tomorrow. And I just wanted to know, what's that question? Say, I have tons of information that I know is very helpful that will move you along and help you determine whether this is right for you or not. Is there anything specific that I can get answered for you before our call tomorrow so I don't waste your time? Now, if your reps have limited time and you're concerned about, this taking too much of your reps' time, you can frame it by saying like, I only have 5 minutes before I have to XYZ on the call itself if the prospect picks up. Now, 56 minutes before your appointment time, you want to send the "Are you still good?" to chat at insert time message. And then make it look like the sales rep personally sent it. You don't need it to be an automated message. It can be automated, but just make it look like the sales rep sent it. Your response rates on this will be enormous. And you can also call at something like 9 a.m., do a morning call for the afternoon call itself. And the script is just going to be, "Hey Ethan, I'm just moving some things around my calendar over here. I just wanted to make sure that we're still good to go for our call at 3 p.m. You just want to be very non-pushy and you want to subtly communicate that, I'm making space for you. I'm carving out time from my calendar to talk to you, which then triggers reciprocity. And this is one of the great, psychological levers that you can pull, right? If someone does something for you, you feel the need to repay it. And how to use this, for example, is if you're in the real estate niche, you can send a selfie video to your lead saying, "Hey, just getting ready for our call tomorrow. If you want, I can have my team put together a full analysis of your current portfolio and investment strategy beforehand. That way we can walk you through exactly where the gaps are and where the biggest opportunities are for you right now." And the moment they bite on that, right, their interest levels spike dramatically and show rates hence spikes as well. They feel that, you've invested effort on their behalf and no showing you would be really rude. Other than that, what you can do is when a setter books the call, you can add the closer to that group with the prospect itself and let the setter introduce the closer and then have the closer send a personalized video to the prospect itself. And what this creates is, number one, your lead now recognizes your closer, and number two, it's so much easier to say no to one person, but it's much harder to say no to 2 people and leave multiple people hanging. And so this kind of cultivates accountability and equals obviously a dramatically higher show rate. Of course, communicating to the prospect exactly what's going to happen on the call is very, very valuable as well. Like what they're going to get, what will be discussed, and what outcomes they can expect. And if this agenda is generally intriguing and valuable sounding, people will show up, right? The pro tip here is to do something called setter disposition tracking. So it's not written here, so you might want to listen to this. Based on how the lead responds to you, what the setter can do is select in the CRM drop-down fields, why the lead has low interest. And then based on that, the lead can automatically get enrolled into specific segments in your email list for more tailored emails. For example, if a lead says, "I don't have enough capital right now to invest," the setter can then select that disposition in the CRM itself, and the lead then automatically gets enrolled to a nurture email sequence that specifically addresses, capital concerns, showing them, seller financing options, joint venture structures, or low down payment strategies that make getting started more accessible. And when they ghost, this is where we get creative. So you can use these two things over here. The first is the red flag message, and we're all busy video. So the red message is very simple. It's something like, "Scares me on potential clients unresponsive," comes off as a red flag. Make sure to use the emoji because based on color psychology, people pay attention to red because red means, unapproved, it means denied, it means stop. And so that kind of triggers something in your prospect's mind, or something like, "Our best deals respond and are transparent with us and get us what we need when we ask." Something like that goes along with this. And the will follow-up is used to acknowledge their situation and reframe the call as a revenue opportunity, not a time cost. And again, we want to follow up with value here, not spam, right? So you can go read this on how you can structure the "we are all busy" video. But in terms of how you want to follow up, you can do something like, hey Ethan, I put together a Google Doc on how an investor is acquiring 3 properties a month using a very simple off-market sourcing system without needing more than a few hours a week to manage it. Do you mind if I, share a document with you, plus a deal breakdown as well, showing you the exact numbers? And doing this, basically, again, you want to trigger reciprocity and you just want to get them to bite. The moment they bite, keep them on the leash and then they will show up for the call. Now, if they claim that they haven't seen the pre-call content, you want to point them back to the confirmation page always, because that's where you can address all of the different questions and objections and expectations that they have. Now, to keep going, 80% of sales requires 5 or more follow-ups. And so if leads no show, what you want to do is call them at the scheduled time, then leave a voicemail, plus SMS plus email, then call again 5 minutes after, and then 10 minutes after, before leaving another voicemail, an SMS, and an email. So do that first, and then number 2, what you want to do is send a reschedule request through your booking system itself. And if there's still no contact, then you can use the methods mentioned above when it ghosts. And you want to add them to the dialer and call twice daily for 7 days. And you also want to put them into a dedicated no-show sequence. I know that this might sound extreme, but extreme measures lead to extreme results. And throughout this process, if you're really concerned, monitor for feedback. Right? If your demographic doesn't respond very well to heavy calling, then just dial it back. And you can lean harder on the other touch points that we're going to cover instead. You want to get basically a clear yes or no, not a maybe. And you can also use this Hail Mary, which I got from Chris Voss from his book Never Split the Difference. And that is, have you given up on achieving X goal? Because nobody likes admitting that they've given up. Right? A significant percentage of dead leads, they re-engage once you've sent this message itself. And so you want to use this as the final play. In terms of how you pay your setters, remember that people ultimately are selfish. It's the first principle. Right? They want as many resources as possible. So you want to always incentivize them. You want to pay them based on the ideal sales cycle. So for an example, it could be a $100 bonus if the person closes within 2 to 3 days, instead of the regular 10%, 5% for setters actually. And the $100 bonus drops by 50% if they close within 7 days. And you can frame it to the team this way, yes, doing this will help us make more money or more interested leads, but there'll be more curious and unqualified leads mixed in. So there'll be more volume, which means that you have more people that you can close. That means that with more money for you. Make sure that the setters can earn a few $1,000s extra per month, minimally, if they do this well. And this prevents them from bitching about unqualified leads, when in reality they're just curious to genuinely interested leads that are probable to buy with enough nurture. And your responsibility as the owner of the company is to clearly communicate to your SDR who the wrong people are. You want to reiterate over and over again. But the setters role isn't just qualifying and scheduling itself. They have to give a world-class experience. They need to know all the resources that you have, all the resources available to send, right? That way they can tailor information for each prospect. And make sure they over-communicate and over-deliver on the things that the prospects actually care about. You want to build a relationship and make them like the rep. Again, a fuckload of action steps for you that will instantly make you money once you implement it. There's honestly really no point watching these videos if you don't implement it, right? Learning is same conditions, different behavior, and intelligence is your rate of learning. So what does it say about your intelligence if you watch all of this but don't implement anything? Yeah? And system 3 is the email Blitzkrieg. And this is one of my favorites as I started out, as a dedicated email marketer. That's kind of my backstory. So in, I think 1940, something like that, instead of slowly grinding through enemy lines like how it had always been done before, Germany hit France with an overwhelming coordinated attack from every angle simultaneously. With tanks, with infantry, with air support all at once, and destroyed France in really short time, just because it moves so fast. And that's exactly what your email sequence needs to do after they take a key action, especially if you're running paid ads, right? Those leads do not have, months of organic content warming them up. So they don't know, they don't care, and they don't trust you, and they don't see the call as a priority yet. So instead of slowly dripping trust over weeks and hoping that they show up, you compress it and send 18 emails in 72 hours. This means 6 emails a day within an interval of about 2 to 3 hours between each email sent during the daytime, or the times where our demographic is most probable to read their emails and respond. And what you want to do is hit them from every angle before they even have a chance to forget who you are or why they booked. I know it might sound crazy, but I want you to think about this. When was the last time, think about the last time you're genuinely interested in buying something? Maybe a car, watch, or going on a holiday with a family. Obviously, you went to consume everything you could find about it, right? Or at least you did some research, hopefully. You probably watched like YouTube videos, you read reviews, you went down like certain rabbit holes, comparing options and the prices. You couldn't get enough information because you were genuinely interested. And you want to apply the same concept here for your leads. The people who wouldn't consume information are those that would probably never buy in the first place, right? There's always a section of a demographic that just won't purchase at all. A section of the market that just won't purchase at all. And so those people just aren't going to buy in the first place. And the guiding question for every email is, what information can I send that makes this call a priority? And it's all about the framing. Consume this equals that outcome for you. This is how you want to frame every single email. It should be how you do your email marketing. Now, before we continue, I want to remind you of one thing, and that is do not be lazy with this written component. Do not be lazy with this. Do not just send like a link with 2 sentences of text and embed a video inside. You can include video links, but the email itself has to lend the argument with words itself. And the reason for this is that everyone has their preferred method of consumption. So, we cover video and audio with confirmation pages and the text in emails itself. And every email should address at least one of these 4 quadrants: questions, second layer questions, expectations, and objections. So quadrant 1, questions. What would someone need to know that would help, sell them on showing up? This includes the reasons you're selling what you're selling, how it compares to alternatives on the market, what makes your company or offer unique or superior, who the offer is best suited for, questions your sales team is getting frustrated answering repeatedly, and key talking points from a VSL that you want to make sure people understand before the call. There's a very funny phenomenon, which is that most writers, copywriters, or business owners, they somehow think that people are going to consume like the entirety of the VSL, which is just not possible. If you go to Wistel or wherever you host your VSL and you can track analytics, it's always this. The graph is always looking like that. No one consumes everything. And so what you want to do is have them be able to consume it in another format, right? You do this by hitting them on the emails, on the confirmation pages, right? And on the content saturation system that I'll talk about later. And then we move into quadrant number 2, which is second layer questions. And so second layer questions are questions that only get reviewed once the original question is asked. So for instance, why is my show rate so low? Well, because there's no nurture between booking and showing up. So what would that look like? And then a whole shit list of questions comes up the moment you talk about why is there no nurture between booking and show up. Once I give you the answer, a lot of questions come up. And that question then creates another. So what should that nurture look like? That's a question. And then I answer, okay, you need to have this number of touch points. And then your question could be, how many touch points is too many before it gets annoying? So it's just an infinite loop, really. And these second layer questions build trust because it shows that you know your prospects. You show your prospects that you know your shit. And for quadrant 3 expectations, you want to ensure that people buy with the right frame. And so you want to clearly outline steps and milestones and all the expectations, right? You want to set realistic timelines for progress and results. You want to specify the level of effort and commitment required from your client. You want to share relatable success stories, showcasing the full arc of the customer journey. And not just the highlight reel. Ideally, you can show, their struggle at first, but thankfully I had a guided process, and because of this method, I was able to hit, insert dream result. And you want to paint a vivid picture of the end result and the transformation beyond just the financial perspective if you're doing a BizOp offer. And our most hated quadrant, objections. What will hold people back from purchasing? So it's the basic stuff like price, time investment, skepticism, comparison to competitors. And it's so easy nowadays, right? Just handle every objection by reframing with logic, evidence, stories, never by dismissing it. For example, for price, you can break down, the true cost of not solving the problem, right? For instance, reframe the price as an investment with clear ROI, or even offer flexible payment plans or like financing options. Literally right now, for every single objection, you can just go into like your favorite AI tool, whether it's GPT, Claude, Gemini, and just have it handle the objection for you. That shit's so easy right now. You could use Fathom to record your sales calls, paste those sales calls into your favorite LLM, and then ask it to list down all of the different, statements from each quadrant itself, and then handle those, right? It's so easy right now. And if you're wondering what should be inside the 18 emails itself, here's a template that I created for you as well. Email number 1 is called confirm and resources. This is just a very basic confirmation email plus an FAQ and resources document. Now, very important here, this document should be 1 to 2 pages, sometimes even more, with like a list of resources to consume before the call. There's so much value in creating this document since you can use it throughout all 4 systems. And so you can link like a Google Doc, a video going through, and so you can link inside the Google Doc itself, like what I showed here, a video going through, your Stripe account, going through your worst Trustpilot reviews, or like include summary versions of SOPs, or include like how your onboarding system actually looks like, or include, what it looks like inside your community itself. And you want to keep adding and organizing the document, and you can even categorize by objections as well. For instance, having an entire site be, watch this if you have been burned, and then just list a shitload of videos and resources that can frame and handle that objection itself. And email 2 basically aims to trigger a response by asking a question. It's very, very simple. It looks something like, hey, first name, any questions before the call, question mark, and a line break, dash, Ethan, and then do like 2 to 3 line breaks, send from my iPhone, right? Those look genuine. You want to make sure that that's plain text, by the way, right? Not templated. And based on whatever they respond with, your team can then respond personally and tailor information plus add links to a specific resource itself. You must have a team for this one, especially if you're doing this at scale and want to hit 100k plus months. Email 3 is basically a case study weaving in all 4 quadrants. And so the subject line, very simple, can just be, name, got, specific result. Email 4 is general FAQ. So answer like 2 to 3 of the most common questions. The subject line can be the most common questions we get. Email 5 is, again, another case study from a different angle itself. Ideally, you want to weave in different parts of the quadrants that we talk about. So if in the previous email you talk about the objection of, I've been burned before, maybe in this email you can talk about the objection of, it requires too much time, something like that. Email 6 and 7 is basically about the founders and why we do this. Pretty nice email to add a personal touch. Email 8 is what sets you apart. Email 9 is just highlighting a feature, something that they'll love, right? Email 10 is the biggest objection, what holds people back the most. So I have one email specifically just breaking down and really reframing the shit out of prospects on what is the biggest objection that they have and why it's not really a real objection, Email 11 is timeline expectations for delivery. So what happens after, 15 days, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. Email 12 is what you can expect right after buying. Email 13 is all the other resources. And again, why you want to do this is because you want to increase consumption time and replicate the organic sales process that nurtures a lead. And so push people to like lead magnets, webinars, YouTube channels, blogs, and you want to list by category with links as well. And email 14, again, another case study. Email 15, another FAQ. Email 16, all the remaining objection handles. Email 17, just massive social proof. And you can even connect people to all your different socials, right? So you not only put in testimonials, but you connect them to all of your different socials as well to increase their consumption. And email 18 is just, you can do whatever you want, honestly. It doesn't really matter at this point. You want to be the person who show up for the call. You want to tell them that I want you to be the person who does what they say, be the person that shows up. And this is like a mental framing email that you can use. Don't be the person who says they're going to do something and then doesn't do it. So this is just a general guideline on how you can structure those 18 emails. Generally, you want to put the most important emails at the front because if your prospects book just one day in advance, they're not going to see all 18 emails, right? Explain how you set it up later. And so the most important email should be pushed towards the front. And for content generation itself, use AI, right? Use AI and the 4 quadrants to build like a content idea document first with like 30 to 50 ideas. So each quadrant can have like 10 to 20 ideas, even more. It's really helpful for creating content as well. And then you distill those into 18 emails. Approximately like 2 ideas addressed per email is the best. Always find as many ways to weave in as many quadrants as possible, right, in every single email. And so what you'll tend to notice is that open rates should be quite high for these emails, around 50 to 70%, but click-through rates are generally low, which is why, again, as I mentioned earlier, you want to ensure that it's very text heavy, but obviously not fluff, right, like value dense, extreme value created in the email itself. Now, in terms of email frequency, I covered this a little earlier. For VSL funnels, basically, immediately upon booking, you want to send 6 emails per day until the call. So 1 every 2 hours from about 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And this is the ideal stats that you should aim for. And make sure that your spam complaint rates are under 0.1% as well. And the product should consume at least, 8 plus emails and 8 content pieces before the call. That's kind of the familiarity bias threshold where they start feeling like they know you. You can search this on Google itself, it's right there. And to find your frequency cap, this is very important. You want to start at just 2 to 3 emails every single day, and you want to track your open rates, and then gradually increase. So you don't want to just blast 6 emails a day right from the start, because that can f up a lot of things. So identify your floor first, your lowest typical open rate, and your ceiling. And if you add another email, and your open rate just breaks significantly below your floor itself, you want to just pull back by 1, that's your limit. And if you hit 6 per day with no issues, just stay at 6. And I didn't include this here, but for webinars itself with like a typically longer timeline, you don't want to blast 6 emails per day for 2 weeks straight. You want to use a ramping strategy. Depends on if it's your first webinar, typically the warm-up period is like 14 days. Ideally, that's when you want to first start advertising your webinar if you're doing it for the first time. So days 1 through 10, do like a low frequency, like 1 email per day or less. And then days 11 through 14, the last 3 to 4 days, just ramp dramatically to like 5 to 6 per day. So do not compress all 18 emails into a shorter window, by the way. if the lead just books for tomorrow, like what I mentioned earlier. They just get fewer emails, right? You can set up dynamic email marketing automation to stop the sequence once the call happens, and you can implement this in 3 ways really. Number 1, a CRM field for call time that triggers automation and pulls out when the time frame expires, or tags plus Zapier where booked equals to tag and then equals to, sequence, and call proceeds or like no show or cancelled equals Zapier tag equals to pull out. Or you can create like pipeline stages as well within like Go High Level or some other CRM you use where deal created fires that sequence, and moving the stage, right, to moving it across the segment stops the sequence. And you can expect about 50% of your emails to work immediately. Another 50% will probably need about 1 to 3 iteration cycles. And as the system works, we see that prospects' questions actually become more sophisticated. So you'll probably need to revamp your videos and emails. Ensure that your emails are obviously sectioned properly for readability as well. And you can split emails to address 2 things at once with a divider in between. And over time, we notice that it's just best to train your sales team again, right? Because there'll be new objections and questions that emerge from the better educated prospects itself. Now, most of the coaches send the same 18 emails to every single lead when someone who buys your lowest ticket product is radically different from someone who purchased your high ticket item. So why the f would you talk to them in the exact same way? Every time a lead fills out an application form before they book, the form gives you so much sauce, but you're ignoring it. And that's why we want to implement segmentation over here. Contextual email marketing means that the sequence adapts based on what you know about the person itself. So a prospect who answered, I want to start an e-store but I don't know where to begin, on the application, they should be getting emails about beginner product selection and, first case studies and, first sale case studies. Not like advanced scaling content that assumes they already have a content running. But a prospect who already answered, I'm already selling but my ads are not profitable, they should be getting emails about ad optimization and, margin improvement breakdowns. Not beginner setup content that they've been through. The wrong email to the wrong person at the wrong stage, it kills the call before it even happens. And one pro tip over here is to use the lead disposition field in the CRM with drop-down options basically for different objections. And upon selection, it automatically triggers specific email content that addresses the specific objection itself. So as an example over here, if a setter marks, objection ... price, and that lead automatically gets your ROI breakdown, your cost of inaction email, and your payment plan options pushed into their sequence. When a setter marks an objection been burned before, they get your worst case scenario video, your Trustpilot reviews, your dispute rate transparency. You can even do this for after the call itself. If a closer marks reason for no close, need to talk to spouse, need to talk to wife, they get a case study of a couple who made the decision together and then a short video addressing the partner who wasn't on the call. Imagine how effective that would be. And there's 2 ways to set it up. And I prefer this first because it's easier and simplicity scales, obviously. But I'll give you guys both. You can set up a Zap basically. So the moment a lead form is filled out, AI analyzes the application data and then sends a summary to your setter or closer, including, the prospect's niche, revenue, biggest pain point, what content to prioritize for them. Even better, what you can do is have that Zap research a person's profile online, Instagram, Facebook, and enrich the data before it hits, your sales team. That way you get like really personalized reach out strategies and you really understand the prospects so deeply that it's just so much easier to close them on a call. Or you can build like CRM automations where, it tags based on, or the more advanced version is to build CRM automations where tags based on the applications, answers, and setter dispositions automatically enroll leads into segmented email branches. And so for instance, someone that's tagged, niche .real estate plus objection .skepticism gets a completely different email flow than someone tagged, niche .fitness and objection .time. And by I mean semicolon, by the way. Just ignore how I say that. And you can segment across 10 to 15 dimensions, demographics, niche, revenue level, engagement, behavior. There's like so many different things that you can do. And so here are the action steps for step 3, system 3. Screenshot it if you want to do it. And now get your assets ready for this last system because it's a little more advanced. It's the only system that requires you to have a budget. Now, if you have no intention of spending money whatsoever, you can skip the system right now because the first 3 systems alone are probably enough to see quite a drastic improvements in your show rate. But obviously, I still encourage you to watch it, understand it, and keep this in your back pocket because this leverages one of the most consistent buying behaviors that we see right now in the market. And that is people consume content before they buy. But it's no excuse to not do it if you're already making 30 to 50K a month and you want to see the best results. We all love organic leads because they're so easy to close, right? An organic sales process, boiled down to first principles, is basically an bound period of time where people in your niche repeatedly consume your content until they reach a tipping point where they trust you and want to buy from you. So imagine if we could replicate this exact process for your cold traffic as well. How overpowered is that? So the content saturation system takes the unbound organic process and compresses it into 48 to 72 hours using paid retargeting. And so what this means is that you force content in front of your current leads and saturate them right here, so that by the time they show up on a call, it feels like an organic lead itself. And this leverages the principles of familiarity bias, which is even if they don't watch any piece of your content, if you keep showing up on their feed, people will trust you because we tend to trust things that we're exposed to repeatedly. And mere exposure effect, which is kind of like the brother of familiarity bias, which is the more we're exposed to something, the more we like it. And throughout these pieces of content, the main goal is to sell the call itself and not the product. We want to teach people exactly how to think in ways that will shorten our buying cycle. So the trigger for this would be, someone booking into a call or opting into a webinar. And there are 5 content strategies that you can use. We covered this already just now. The only new one over here is character content, which is basically showing your personality, because people buy because they like who you are and what you represent. And that's why you should have that, content document I already mentioned in System 3 ready, because it makes creating this so much easier. And so for short form content, you want to have about 30 to 50 short form pieces. You want to target a frequency count of about 15 to 20 at a campaign level within your key window. So typically it's about 72 hours right before a prospect show up to the call. And the frequency count is simply how many times on average each person in your audience has seen your content during the campaign window itself. So a frequency of 15 to 20 over here, what this means is basically every person in your retargeting audience is seeing your content 15 to 20 times within that 72-hour window. I know it's slightly confusing, so take some time to digest it. The high frequency within a tight window is what creates that omnipresence effect and nurtures your leads extremely quickly. Now below that threshold, the effectiveness of this overall campaign just drops dramatically. So for Reels, for short form pieces, you want to do vertical video. Make sure that each video is under 90 seconds. Make sure that you post on Instagram and also cross-post it on Facebook or TikTok if you're running ads there. Do not use copyrighted music because you can't run paid engagement on it. And try not to add a CTA in the captions because it doesn't really matter though, because sometimes you can fish out content that you've already created for this process as well. There could be content pieces that are created a long time ago, but as long as they fit into those quadrants that we talk about, and it's an effective piece of short form content, we can leverage it over here. Now for long form content, this is like YouTube, right? You need about 15 to 30 long form pieces at a frequency count of about 10 to 20. And you can either film them from scratch, but if you're very busy, which I assume you are, take your best performing YouTube videos. You want to strip out everything in there. So all the like and subscribe, sections with less value and everything the prospect doesn't care about. You want to strip everything and only leave the gold inside. And when I say long form content, it's basically anything that's above 10 minutes and can go all the way to a few hours actually. So some examples are podcasts, trainings, old webinars that you've run, or like evergreen webinars. You ideally want to start by immediately articulating a key problem and then go straight to the value. And so the prospect should get a hit of value every 30 to 60 seconds. You want to imagine your prospect like a drug addict that is craving for meth, for instance. And you're just like dropping tiny powder capsules of how do you even consume meth? I don't know how you do that. It's like illegal in Singapore and you get like executed here if you do that. So to set up your campaign, just go to Facebook Ads Manager, go to Campaign Setup and use ABO, which is Ad Set Budget Optimization. And that means that every piece of content gets equal distribution. And make sure you're using a rolling audience so people are automatically entering and exiting the audience in real time. And you can set this up through like a custom list that is synced through Zapier, so it adds the lead the moment they book and removes them automatically once a window expires, which is typically 72 hours. Now for short form, how you want to create this campaign is basically ABO with 30 plus ad sets using the same audience itself. So one ad set is one video, and you want to exclude anyone who has already watched 3 seconds within that ad set or already bought. So they're not served, the same video fucking 15 times in a row, right? So every time someone watches a video, 3 seconds of a video, they get excluded from seeing that specific video again, which then forces Meta to feed them a different piece of content from your video library instead. So to do this, you want to watch for the frequency at the ad set level itself. And that number tells you exactly how well your content is performing. A frequency of 1 means someone watched 3 seconds on the first time they saw it, got excluded, and then moved on to the next video, which is great. A frequency of 2 means that they didn't watch it for 3 seconds the first time they saw it, but they did it the second time, which is acceptable. And a frequency of 3 or above just means that the person has now been served the same video 3 or more times and still hasn't watched 3 seconds of it, which in other words means that your content sucks ass, or rather your hook sucks ass, right? You don't have to change the entire content, just refilm the first 3 seconds of your video and then just retest it. And you want to duplicate this exact structure for long form content in a separate campaign, because campaigns always tend to bias towards short form, so you need like separate analytics, if it makes sense. Now, do the exact same setup. At the campaign level, optimize for engagement, and at the ad set level, optimize for true play, which is like viewing 15 seconds of your video. And then you want to set your video view exclusions at the 15-second threshold. So the moment someone watches 15 seconds of your video, they never see that same video again. And then Meta is forced to serve them a fresh piece of content instead. And you want to ensure that you have a minimum of 150 people in a retargeting audience, since match rates are about 60 to 80%. So match rates are basically how many people you can find on the platform itself out of all of the platform you're trying to target with your ad. So if you can't hit 150, just add like supplemental audiences by expanding outward from hottest to coldest. So you want to start by using a web-based audience first, like people who hit your confirmation page right after booking. You can then layer in people who had calls in the sales cycle over the last 30 days, and you can extend to 60 days if needed. You can also add in like webinar opt-ins or low-ticket buyers. Just understand that the further you extend and the less relevant the lead you use, the less effective the overall campaign becomes. Now, if you're trying to do this at scale, try to use a 72-hour window. And it has to be saturated, right? That's the higher point of it. Meaning a lot of content in a very short time frame, right? A saturated solution contains the maximum amount of solute that dissolves in a solvent. So the maximum of content served to them within the shortest time frame. Now, if you're doing this at a smaller scale, you can extend to 10 days or 2 weeks instead. Now, for budget, it's honestly just math. You want to spend enough to achieve the campaign frequency count that we talk about here, which, is roughly about $5 to $10 per day per ad set. You do not want to exceed 0.1 to 0.2 of your overall ROAS. If your ROAS is 3x, the content saturation system should not take you below 2.8%. If your margins are razor thin already at like 1.5x, do not execute this system because it will hurt you, right? You'll either break even or you're going to lose profit. But if you have high ROAS, you want to execute on this immediately. And this system works for people who booked calls, who opt in to webinars, for low ticket buyers that are going to high ticket, even for people who booked but didn't buy, right? You can implement that as well, but just be less aggressive on the frequency for those people. And the first sign that this is working is that, you get amazing feedback from your sales team. And the only downside is that your leads could become very sophisticated, and you may need to, retrain your entire sales team really on these more sophisticated leads. But honestly, I wouldn't even consider that like a downside because it's just a part of the process, right? The second sign is that your show rate increases, your close rates increases, and you get way more pips, which are paid in fulls. Now, a couple more action stats for you. Go screenshot it. Now, there are two types of prospects as well, and most business owners only focus on one because they think that the other type is cold, when in reality, that's not the case. They're just a different personality type. So not every prospect consumes information in the same way, so you need to tailor your approach to different communication styles, right? And this is very, very crucial for show rates and revenue itself. And so the due diligence consumer wants to trust you. They go through all the pre-call material, they watch all the videos, they read all the emails, and they do their due diligence. And creators with organic businesses are very good at serving this consumer with long-form content. And typically businesses that do very well with this lead are doing like low to mid couple $100,000 trying to get into paid ads, but they're struggling because they've never been exposed to the second type of person, which is the time-conscious skeptic. Now, these people are a pain in the ass to deal with, but they're still customers nonetheless, right? They will not consume your pre-call material. They, in a sense, want to feel special. They only want answers to their very specific questions, delivered extremely fast. And these are the type of people that would like never opt into a webinar. These leads typically have a longer sales cycle, at least like a 2-call close, because the first call is used purely for education. They still want all the information, but they just want to consume it differently. Now, if you want to, capture the 10 to 30% of your audience that you might be neglecting right now because they're unqualified, you think they're unqualified, just implement these steps below. So there are 3 steps to implement. First one is for all your long-form content, pre-call email sequences, outline the sections very, very clearly. You're going to put chapters, on videos that they can jump to, like bars. There's like chapter bars there. Allow them to skip the video and your VSL, right? Let this type of people jump directly to the section that they care about. And the second solution is to hire educators. They're like setters basically, but they're designed for the time-conscious skeptic. So if a lead appears to be this person, immediately just live transfer this call to an educator. And the educator's job is to go through all the resources, all the decks, all the VSLs, and help that individual get their questions answered. And then you can set up a follow-up call with the closer, or this educator can just close himself or herself. You want to pay them like a setter, and if they close, pay them closer commissions as well. But a long-term solution for all of this is to train your sales team to identify and actually handle this type of person. And it's really super obvious actually. Just ask like on sales calls, hey, did you get a chance to watch any of the videos or anything that we sent to you prior to the call? And if they say no, they're probably a time-conscious skeptic. And then the educator can pop in and say something like, well, Mr. Prospect, I'm here right now to get you as much information as I can for you to make this decision one way or another, whether you're in or out, right, as easy as possible. Ideally, we can commit to a 10-day time frame on getting you all the information you need to make a decision so you can go one way or another. And so let's dive right in right away. What do you want to get started with? And they'll probably respond at this point with a really super broad question like, so, tell me what's all this about. And I used to get fucking pissed. I used to get so pissed when I hear this type of shit. And I would spend like 2 fucking hours trying to one call close these people and just waste so much of my time. You never want to use the one call close approach with these people. You need a lot of time to warm them up. And that journey required to nurture them and warm them up should be done via content instead of you talking to them on a call instead. So you answer that question and then you say something like, you know what, Mr. Prospect, give me a list of questions that you got. Let me help you walk through and navigate so you can save some time, right? I'm going to make a list of you with some tailored resources just for your use cases that you need so you can get your answers so that you can make a proper decision within our 10-day timeline. That's just my goal of this call. Does that sound fair? Something like that. And then once you've implemented all 4 of these systems above, I want you to ask your sales team this week. Or you can literally ask them right now if you're already implementing some of these. Right? Of the last 20 plus calls, how many people showed up having consumed none of the call material? And if this person-to ratio exceeds 30%, you want to start to implement a dedicated protocol, whether it's the 2-call framework or the new educator role over here. This is very, very important. And you want to make sure you get the boring but important stuff set up as well. I know I've been shitting on automated reminders this entire video, but you don't want to forget those two. Email confirmation at the 24-hour, 2-hour, and 10-minute mark is important. Same for text as well. And then for SMS, you can include links to video resources too. That's a way to make it a little more interesting. If you're only offering a couple of slots a day, what you're doing is you're forcing prospects to pick inconvenient times. So you want to set your calendars to the widest availability possible. And in Calendly, you can set busy blocks, basically for times that you can't do. And then you want to put your available time in Calendly itself, from 12 a.m. to 11:45 p.m. And then have your prospect select the time on your calendar level. Very, very similar to set this up. Just go search online or something, or GPT. It's really easy to set it up. And then you want to set your booking increments to 15 minutes, not 30 or 60. And a huge mistake that I once made is letting my prospects book 1 week in advance. And so if you book outside a 72-hour window, your show rates actually drop by 60% plus or more. And if someone reschedules more than 24 hours out from the original time, 90% of them don't even show up. So you want to be very strict with this and tell your prospects that we unfortunately do not offer reschedules due to high call volume. And if you like, we can do that reschedule for later today, but that's the best I could do. And sometimes, no-shows are inevitable. So what you can do as well, and it's a hack, I don't think I mentioned it here, is you can put 2 people in the same slot. And if someone does not confirm during the morning call that we talked about, or they have not accepted the event in their calendar itself, you can just move them to maybe status and keep the second booking active. That way, if that person doesn't show up, if they have a high probability of not showing up, you can at least take another call during that time, right? In terms of cold traffic, phone calls literally crush Zoom in terms of show rate because it's the lowest friction possible. A real estate agent did this and went from 20% to 80% show rate. So you can start first with your phone for the first contact, the initial contact, and then you can transition to Zoom once you've built that rapport and done that initial discovery. You want to do it once you have framed them and told them your agenda. You want to immediately transition them to Zoom. Say that you want to screen share or something like that. And make sure you to stay on the phone with them while they connect to Zoom. Now, more questions on the page means a higher show rate because there's more friction. Now, do note that this does produce qualified leads, but it reduces the total volume of calls that you'll get. So only implement this if number 1, you're getting a lot of shitty leads, or number 2, you have way too many applications and leads, and you just want to get as qualified of a lead as possible. Now for a couple more strats for you guys, send initial confirmation within 60 seconds with before and after images of client. So this is testimonials, right? Reinforces they make the right decision. Send links and media separately from text because carriers sometimes block unknown links in combined messages. And you want to use emojis only if your niche responds to it. You don't want to spam that. Put on first contact only, which passes do not disturb and signals urgency. Send selfies for engaging questions instead of generic booking reminders. Send multiple SMS messages in sequence to mimic human texting patterns. And this one thing is really funny that actually works quite well. You can do a deliberate typo and then do a correction, right? This is gold, right? But use it sparingly. You want to label automated messages as auto-confirm. So later your human messages look more believable by contrast, right? And literally these human messages don't even need to be actual humans. There can be AI sending it, but you will just want to do something like auto-confirm for the very obviously automated messages. Now you want to set workflows to activate only during business hours, and then start off the hour like 9:08 a.m. instead of 9 a.m. to make it look less automated. And then to get to the point on calls within 5 seconds to prove that you're not a cold caller. And you can read the rest for yourself, right? It's just basic stuff, more technical, nerdy stuff. And if your metrics don't improve significantly, after implementing all 4 of these strategies, the information you're providing probably sucks, so you might have to redo it. Now, if your stats stay strong, don't worry about the 1 or 2 people a week who are definitely going to complain that it's annoying. If a lot of people complain, right, compare that number relative to the total who booked, and then you pay attention to it. So let's say there's 100 people booking in calls every single week, and out of that 100, only 5 people are complaining, right? But because of all of these systems you implement, your show rate has increased to like 80%, and your closing rates are like at 60%. Do you turn off this system just for those 5 people? It doesn't make sense, right? So you want to make sure that whether you turn it off is always justified against the current show rate, close rate, and ultimately the revenue that you collect from these people. Now, if your email open rates, which indicates your consumption rate, starts to drop massively, or if show rate and close rate are being hurt, and you can attribute it directly to too much communication, then just tone it down briefly. And there are also 2 more things that Hormozy talks about that I think you could use, but these are pretty limited in terms of usage, but I'll just let you know anyways. The first one is like offering a free gift for attending the call, so you can offer something of value just for showing up. Either an Amazon gift card, if you're in the Amazon FBA niche, a coffee, a free audit, a resource document. This triggers reciprocity bias as well. Obviously, you want to calculate it against your collected dollars per book call, and you can do something like that if it makes sense for you and generates you, a higher close rate and a show rate. And the second thing is, if someone booked a call with Homo, they're gonna fucking show up, right? No matter what happens. So the second one is building a stronger brand, especially with YouTube itself. Everyone would show up if you book the call with Hormozy unless you're an idiot. So brand equals to perceived value, which hence equals to respect for the prospect's time itself. So even just posting, YouTube videos consistently builds enough brand equity that prospects feel higher motivation to show up because they value your time more. Now, building all 4 of this yourself is absolutely possible. I've given you everything you need to start building this for yourself today to increase your show rates. But if you're sitting there thinking, I don't want to spend the next 3 months trying to put all of this together and, have months of trial and error while leads keep leaking, that's literally what we do at Easy Info. We build the entire backend, the CRM, the automations, the email sequencers, the confirmation pages, the setup systems, all of it, and we manage it ongoing for you. And we only get paid when your revenue goes up. So that means that our incentives are perfectly aligned. So you can click the link in the description and you can have a chat with me where I just map out exactly how we're going to put this into your business so you can dramatically improve your show rates and close rates today. Because at Easy Info, we make scaling easy. Okay, this has been so fun to make, guys. Hope you guys really enjoyed this video. It's a monster document that I put out. And be sure to subscribe because the next video is an in-depth breakdown on every single leak in your funnel that's costing you money and how to build 6-figure funnels as fast as possible. See you in the next video.